All right, everybody, welcome to another episode of the DVO Show, and I'm here with the founder of Absolute MMA, Rob Handley. How's it going, buddy?
Good. How you doing?
Doing good. So, I've been invited to go to a lot of gyms around the valley. Absolute MMA in West Jordan is easily the best gym in Utah.
Thank you.
If not the country, man.
Thank you.
I mean, it's a great gym. It's a great facility. The coaches are awesome, and I'm glad you gave us some time to come down here today.
Of course. Anytime. I love to. It's good to catch up with you. Good to see you and talk.
Yeah, I trained there for a while, and I'll say I got invited to go to the UFC gym here in Utah in Sandy.
Sure.
And I trained there for a little bit. And compared to Absolute MMA, it sucked.
Wow.
I mean, the equipment's cool, but it sucks. And it was a while ago, I'll say that. But coming from Absolute and then going to the other gyms, maybe I should have went to Absolute first, man. You guys got a great system out there.
Yeah, there's something out there for everybody, and getting in where you fit in is important.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
And obviously, when I went, I had some friends there, and we had a good time, man. It was a good
time. Oh
yeah,
yeah.
It was good. So tell me, I want to know, and the people want to know your history with MMA and how you got into MMA.
Oh man, so I got into martial arts. Man, I want to say 91,
Wow,
92,
okay.
somewhere in there. I was already involved somewhat with some boxing, and then I got into tae-kwon-do and karate and jiu-jitsu, and later into judo and Muay Thai.
Okay.
Yeah, long history, almost 30 years. So,
What was it that like you saw something, like you watched a Bruce Lee film or something? I don't know.
well, I was a fan. I was
Okay.
a fan all my life. I was a fan of martial arts movies.
Okay.
I most kids in the 80s and early 90s. Like Van Damme and
Right.
Paul and all those guys.
Yeah.
But of course, Bruce Lee and his influence and believe it or not, even like The Last Dragon.
Oh,
just
good.
like old,
Yeah, yeah.
those old karate
Oh,
movies.
yeah.
So in the 80s, so that was something that I was, I always had interest in. I always thought was really cool. I never had a chance to really do it until I got out of high school
Okay.
and I didn't have a plan coming out of high school. I wasn't going to go play ball. I wasn't gonna, go to college.
Okay.
I didn't know what I was gonna do. I was not making the right choices, and I was definitely not the lifestyle. And so a school opened up near my home, and I just decided to check it out one day.
Nice.
And I sat outside. I don't know, I must have been 18. I sat outside and I watched these two guys practice. And
Was it an MMA gym? Or was it
no, MMA didn't exist
Right.
back then. MMA was something that the term MMA didn't exist. That was called something different
Okay.
back then. NHB. But even that came later too. That didn't come till, 93, 4, 5 when it started to pick
so
up.
the no holds bar and
Yeah.
The first UFCs were rolling out. Okay.
Yeah, the first UFC was 1993.
Okay.
So November 93.
Right.
So,
Okay.
Man.
Were you like a fan instantly when it came out?
Yes. Because I was already in the martial arts, I was already interested. I had found passion in the martial
Good.
arts. So it was really easy for me. Like I saw that and I was like, that's the coolest thing ever.
Right.
So it was an exciting time to be involved in the martial arts back then. As it is today. I mean, it's awesome.
So when you were getting into it, what was maybe your favorite art form?
It's changed. It's
okay.
changed through time. you know, when I first started to get involved, I was working out with a friend of mine in his house.
Cool.
And I put a heavy bag in his living room.
Nice.
And he had some boxing experience. He was from New York. He trained in the summers at the same gym that Mike Tyson trained at when he was a teenager. It's my friend Kyle Kuroplak was his name.
Nice.
Kyle was a body man in a body shop that I worked at. And so after work, we'd go and he'd show me how to throw, you know, punches.
Yeah, hit the bag.
Yeah, that was awesome.
That's awesome.
So my first influence was boxing.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then changed.
And then I started doing tae-kwon-do, and
Nice.
I found a lot of like for me, you know, the majority of my sporting fighting came from that. I decided that you know, I wanted to be competitive. And in Taekwondo, it's an Olympic sport.
Yeah.
So I was like, man, I could really do something with this. This would be
good
cool
idea.
because I could train, I could fight, I could maybe be an Olympian, I could go to the Olympics, and you know, that was on my radar. That's what I was really focusing on. And I really pushed hard for that for a couple of years, and then jiu-jitsu. I got the jiu-jitsu bug. And
I love jiu-jitsu.
Yeah, me too. And it came down to I couldn't do both. It was just so at that time, it was so hard for me to go back and forth and still try to get 100%.
Because this time it was still just one art form at a time, basically.
Yeah.
Because it was very intense in one form.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
Yes. And so like the UFC had really kicked off, and jiu-jitsu was blowing up all around the country, and I was very fortunate. I found a jiu-jitsu school here in Salt Lake. That, you know, at that time there were only a couple of jiu-jitsu schools in the country. Like legitimate schools, and one of them happened to be here. So man, I went and I signed up and I took my licks like everybody else. Right. You know, like maybe more than everybody else. Yeah. Because I was the big guy, and I had some karate experience, some taekwondo experience, so everybody wanted to like beat me up all the time. So
you had to break in your sissy toes.
Yeah, totally.
That's funny because I remember I got down on the top of my toes. I got all this, what is it, rash or heat rash or whatever.
Oh no! It's like we call mat burn.
Mat burn. Yeah. So you're like, oh, you got to break in your sissy toes, man. I was like, all right. I was like, all right.
Yeah.
So you got your black belt, right?
Yeah. I started training in '93, jiu-jitsu, and then I got my black belt in 2003. 2003. And it's one of 3 now that I have.
Wow.
You know, of course, I was a black belt in Taekwondo or in the early 90s.
Wow.
I also received my black belt in judo since. I got my black belt in jiu-jitsu in 2003. So,
that's awesome.
What's that? Almost 15 years as a black belt now.
Yeah. So. What was it about jiu-jitsu that drew you to it, that you just fell in love with?
Well, I had a strategic disadvantage in Taekwondo. I was shorter and bigger than most of my competitors.
All right.
You know, the guys were really tall, skinny guys, and man, they were fast and they could reach me from a long distance away. And so I had to make up for that, you know, with speed and agility. And when you're a heavyweight, it's not the easiest thing, right? You know. And so then when I started doing jiu-jitsu, it was like this is something you can do whether you are tall or short or big or small, or you know, it didn't and like those advantages in the striking aspect didn't exist in jiu-jitsu. It was like it was like, and it's something that I took to naturally, you know, grappling, wrestling, controlling, holding, you know, defending. And it was something that had challenged me, you know, emotionally and mentally too. So jiu-jitsus?
I mean, when I was training, jiu-jitsu is my favorite thing.
Yeah.
I think naturally, kind of people I hung out with, naturally like boxing, kickboxing came natural, just street fighting.
Yeah.
It just kind of came natural to me.
Yeah.
But jiu-jitsu was totally different, and it was fun. And you can, one thing that you trained me with that I really liked is because I'm a bigger guy too. I can how to use my weight.
Yeah.
And I could just pin somebody and hold someone and do something. And I thought that was really cool.
Yeah.
And I remember when I was training my brother, he said, "Oh yeah, let's see." He's kind of teasing me a little bit. So let's see what you got. I said, "Well, shoot for my legs." And he did. I instantly put him in a Peruvian necktie. And he was like, all right. And I was like, "Oh, that works. It's awesome."
Nice. Hey, cool. Nothing like brotherly love.
Yeah,
right?
Yeah. You want to test it out? And I said, "Listen, I'll show you."
Yeah, that's right.
So what do you remember about like the first like intros in the UFC? Like the Gracies were big. Yeah. I mean, you always hear it now called Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, but there's different forms of Jiu-Jitsu. What were you training in?
Sure. Well, the deviation in terminology just comes from, when the Gracie family came to the United States, they were very strict about, who could use the name Gracie and who couldn't use the name Gracie. So we had that. He had even people in the family who were using Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu as a term for Gracie Jiu-Jitsu. And even in all my time and travels to Brazil, I never heard someone say, in Brazil, I never heard anyone say Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu or Gracie Jiu-Jitsu. I only heard people refer to Jiu-Jitsu as Jiu-Jitsu. Okay. You know what I mean? Yeah. There. So that was something that in the United States, it differentiated the Gracie family from everybody else. This is what we do, and this is what we have control over, and that's our name. And then Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu is just kind of what people started to use to differentiate the style from Brazil versus the style from Japan. Yeah. Because you could say Jiu-Jitsu at the time, and it could mean anything. All right. It could mean Japanese Jiu-Jitsu. It could mean, there are probably dozens of different types of Jiu-Jitsu in the world. Gracie the word Gracie defines this specific family style from Brazil. All right. So that's pretty cool. Yeah. And my current teacher is a grandmaster, 9th degree grandmaster. Wow. He was a personal student of Helio Gracie and Carlos Gracie. Okay. His father was friends with them, and he started training with Helio and Carlos in 1947. Oh shit! Wow. And he's still practicing today. Wow. Yeah. And you have him come down to Salt Lake a lot too. A couple times a year. Yeah. Yeah. He comes. He spends some time in my house, and I get to learn, directly from the source, and that's so awesome. It's amazing. It's amazing. He's such a well-traveled, educated man. He speaks 5 languages. Oh wow. It's amazing. He's an amazing person. Oh, that's awesome. Yeah. That's great. Yeah. And what made you decide? Hey, I want to open up a gym too. I for a lot of years worked as an assistant in a local school here. Okay. With one of my teachers. So I got into the idea and the lifestyle of working in a gym. It wasn't until later on that I decided that I wasn't making a whole lot of money. And I had to, I was like, at that time I don't know, must have been 27, 28. And I decided that I needed to do something else. I needed to you get to be like 27, 28, and everyone's just starting their careers, starting to, settle down, start their careers, making money, having families, and I was like almost looking at 30 going, man, what am I going to do? And I ended up going to work for a brokerage firm. Okay. Interesting. And yeah. I went to work for a brokerage firm. I worked, 2 or 3 years in the stock market. Okay. Did really well with what I was doing. but I was never in love with it.
All right.
And it took me away from what I wanted to do. What I wanted to do was I wanted to be in the gym. I wanted to be training. I wanted to be around my friends. And so after like 2 or 3 years, and, I was a national, I like won a bunch of national awards like for my department.
Okay.
I was really successful at what I was doing, but I just wasn't happy. Wasn't happy. And
you had a bug telling you that you need to go back to the gym.
Yeah, well, I just got to do something. And so I decided to leave. And then I decided, I'm gonna start small.
Okay.
I'm gonna start small. I'm gonna do something. I had no idea what I was doing. I had no idea what I was getting into. I was just kind of like, I had seen so many of my friends around the country.
Yeah.
Being successful at blue belt and purple belt teaching jiu-jitsu.
Okay.
I thought, man, well, if those guys are doing it,
right?
I mean, and I'm senior to those guys. Well, why can't I do it?
Exactly.
So I decided to jump all in.
Nice.
And that was 2001.
Okay.
2001 that I started that process. And man, here we are today, almost 20 years later.
And, so my friend Sean, he started training. Then he got me and a couple other friends over there too, because we fell in love with it because we were always MMA fans. And it was cool because when I was in there, I was seeing UFC fighters.
Yeah.
And he was telling me, because he would travel with you sometimes, and you go to events, and he says, Rob knows everybody at the UFC events. Everyone's talking to you. You've trained some UFC fighters. You've cornered fighters. You shout them out. Who have you cornered? Who have you trained?
I will say this because I have to take the opportunity to give credit to one person. When I was, let's see, it had to have been somewhere in the 90s, 96, 7, 8, 9. I can't remember exactly when. But there was one fighter who, I think he was in UFC 3, 4, 5. I can't remember.
All right.
I have to double check. But he was early. He was a guy who was involved early on. And he was coming out here from Canada to train with us.
Okay.
And a friend of ours was a friend of his, and he was traveling to train with us. His name was Dangerous Dave Beneteau.
Okay.
Dangerous Dave Beneteau. And Dave and I were training partners. He was a heavy, I was a heavy, so we were always working out together. And one day, Dave and I were traveling to Provo, because our training that night was in Provo. Dave and I were driving down there, and Dave said to me, he's like, well, what are you going to do with this? What are you going to do? And I said, I don't know what I'm going to do. I don't know where I want to go. I don't know what I want to do. And he's like, the opportunities are starting to open up for people to fight. Opportunities are open up for people to get more involved. And I said, I don't know. I really want to get more involved in coaching. And he looked at me.
Interesting.
He's in the UFC. This is early UFCs. And he looked at me and he's like, Rob, do it. 100% do it. Because there aren't that many guys out there coaching that have real experience. They have knowledge in all these arts and all this stuff. And he's like, if that's what you enjoy and if that's what you love, then that's what you should do.
Exactly.
Fighter, this is his words. This was his words to me that day. He said, fighters are dime a dozen. There's always going to be fighters.
Right.
Because fighters are always going to be available. But there aren't going to be that many coaches. And this is early on in the 90s,
Yeah.
And so I heard that and I was like, man, okay, you know what? That's where I'm going to go. That's where I'm going to head. That's what I'm going to look for.
Nice.
And so at that point, I submerged myself my whole life in all martial arts. Wrestling, judo, jiu-jitsu, boxing, kickboxing. And man, if it was to be studied, I'm studying it. I'm studying. I had some influence early on as well from some friends of mine that were playing in the NFL, right?
Okay.
And, those guys work 8 hours a day.
Oh, yeah.
Every day.
Yeah.
That between practice and media and films and film study and coaches meetings and position meetings and all this stuff that happens. And one of my friends that was playing for the Tennessee Titans at the time, he said to me, he's like, you should really start to look at film and study the trends and study the successes of all these guys.
Okay.
Who's doing things good? Who's doing things, who's winning, who's losing? Why are they winning? Why are they losing? And like really start to strategize and look at the tactical part, not just the technical part, because that's what I was already consumed by the technical part.
Sure, yeah.
And he's like, man, you should really look at the strategic and the tactical part. And man, like it changed my life, like all of a sudden, like I'm looking at it from a completely different perspective.
Oh, that's good.
It was awesome.
Yeah.
It was awesome. So I had a lot of influence from really influential people early on that kind of set me on my path. Dave Beneteau, I have to give credit to because man, he's the one that gave me the confidence to be a coach, a teacher. I just kind of assumed that, as involved as I was, I would probably teach.
Right.
Teach. But I didn't really have, like, the desire to coach.
Okay.
Different.
Gotcha.
Right?
Yeah.
And he's the one that put that bug in my ear.
Oh, good.
So that was early on. And then it wasn't until later, mid-2000, gosh, I can't even remember, 5, 6, 7, somewhere in there. We had, at that time, we had Court McGee was just starting his career. Josh Berkman was in his career.
Yeah.
We had a couple of guys to kind of come and go. There were local guys that also had, one or two fights in the UFC. Josh brought in Evan Tanner, who was a former middleweight champion and was making his comeback. And we were involved in a couple of his camps. He would come to train with Josh, and Josh would bring him in to work out with us. And
that guy was a scrapper.
Yeah, it was good.
He was great.
Really.
Rest in peace, Evan.
Really good. Yeah. What a great message, to get people to believe in themselves and believe in what they're capable of doing. He left an awesome imprint on a lot of people because he was such a celebrity. Everybody knew who he was. And he had such great advice for the young fighters, the young guys.
Yeah.
Guys like Ben Fuyamano, guys like Steve and Sharp.
Right.
The local kids.
Yeah.
Local guys that were coming up.
Yeah.
It was good. It was a good time. It was a hard time.
Yeah.
But it was a good time, for fighting in MMA in Utah and even just for our team.
Yeah, it was cool. I mean, I rolling around with Josh Berkman a few times. And that was just an awesome experience. And to see that. And it's like you were just saying, now you're training Court McGee.
Yes.
He's got a fight coming up this month in October.
October 27th.
Where's that main event at?
It's that fight is in the East Coast. It's the same night that Anthony Smith fights. It's in New Brunswick. I can't even say the name.
I don't know the other guy's name. I don't even know how to say it.
Yeah, Oldemir. Is it Oldemir?
Yeah.
Vulcan Oldemir?
Yeah.
I think so. I can't remember. But it's the Anthony Smith card. So
Lionheart.
And we've actually had the opportunity to fight Anthony. One of the guys fought Anthony in what was that show? It's now LFA.
League of Professional.
I can't remember what it is now, but anyway, Brock Jardine fought Anthony in Nebraska.
Okay.
And so I've been watching his return to the UFC since then. And he's doing really good.
Yeah, he is.
Really, really good. He's doing amazing.
That's good. I mean, Court McGee has got awesome story of how he got into MMA and fighting his demons and
Court is I describe Court as a powerful human being. And not he's strong, yes. But his soul is powerful. His being is powerful. What he stands for is powerful.
For sure.
He is one of my most favorite people of all time. All time.
I mean, I watched him on The Ultimate Fighter, and that was my first introduction to him.
Mm-hmm.
And you could just tell, just a solid guy, just down to earth, big heart of gold, actually, and just it was exciting. And then, so tell me, I mean, I think we just had like the 2-year anniversary of UFC's first visit to Utah, where he was on that. Has it been 1 year?
Gosh, I don't know. It's like,
I think it's 2. I think we just had it's been
that night.
2 years, I think.
What? Oh man.
I mean, tell me about it. Yeah, because tell me, it was like UFC first time in Utah. And me and my friends, we got front row seats, and we were like, we were stoked about it. And then there you are, cornering head coach here in home.
Yeah,
what's that whole experience like?
Oh man, it gives me the chills thinking about it. Anyway,
it was so awesome.
What an amazing evening, and the whole week leading up to it. I grew up in Utah. I grew up a Utah Jazz fan.
Okay.
I grew up, around a time when it was not uncommon for the Utah Jazz to be like one of the top teams in the league.
Stockton to Malone.
Yeah. And being inside the now Delta Center or the Energy.
Now it's Vivint Smart Home Arena.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Yeah.
They changed it.
That's right.
But in the prime, it was the Delta.
That's
Center.
right. That's right. And like being backstage, being in the locker rooms, and being like seeing like their names on the walls, and
cool.
For me as a kid, that was like, man, that was something I never imagined. Growing up as a kid, you never imagined that one day you'd be, there. And so that part was cool, really cool. The event itself was something special because Court was the only local on the card.
Right. Which I was surprised of.
Yeah. Well, I think a couple of the local guys who were contracted at the time had fought in the weeks prior, like just barely earlier.
I know like some people were just coming off of injuries.
Sure.
I think like Berkman had a nose surgery or something like that.
Yeah. So for Court to be on the card and to get a spot at home, man, the energy in the room.
Oh yeah.
The energy in the cage, just like I was standing 5 feet away from him, listening to his speech with, his interview with Joe Rogan.
Yeah.
Or whoever it was, I can't even remember. If it was Joe, if it was Anik, if it was
Martinez.
Who knows? I can't remember. But I remember standing in the cage 5 feet away, and it was so loud.
Yeah.
So loud that I can't even hear what Court's saying.
Oh, that's awesome.
Like the fans, the Utah fans were amazing. The crowd was so loud.
It was. It was loud.
Yeah.
I mean, he dominated the other fighter. I mean, he just smothered him and grinded him on the fence and just dirty boxed him. And
yeah.
It was good.
In that fight specifically, we had worked on keeping him away at distance, cutting angles, striking and moving, not getting caught up in a power punching situation on the inside, because that's what his opponent, Dominic Steele was his opponent. Super powerful wrestler, super powerful, 1-2 kind of thing.
Yeah.
So we wanted to stay away from that. And in the first 5-10 seconds of the fight, Court jabs low, crosses high and clocks this guy.
Right.
Hard. And knocks the guy down in the first 10 seconds of the fight. Jumps on top of him, does some more damage. And they get back to their feet, and there's an exchange. And then and everything we trained changed at that moment.
Okay.
Everything changed at that moment. And that's one of the cool things about this type of fighting and these styles is like anything can happen at any time and anything can change. You can have a plan, but it can change.
Right.
You can have a direction of how you think it's going to happen, and it can change. And if you're not prepared for that change or that audible, that call that says, okay, you know what, I got to change now and go this direction. I got to change and go that direction. You know, something that kind of stuff has to happen early on. That's not something that you can do overnight. You have to train those things and drilling those things and being prepared for those things far, far out, so that when the time comes, you're on. Go.
Yeah, muscle, brain memory.
Yeah. And at that moment, Court hyperextended his elbow.
Okay.
And his elbow was tight, sore. And he changed at that moment. And he out-wrestled and out-grinded the wrestler. So what happened was Court changed his game plan, which made his opponent change his game plan. So they're both trying, in the beginning, they're both trying to impose their wills of opponent on each other, right? Court was first. Court hit him. Boom. They went down. Boom. They were grappling, striking. And then all of a sudden, Court's like, man, I got this.
Yeah.
This guy's strong, but I got this. And Court turned it into a dirty boxing wrestling game at that point.
Yeah.
Which we assume, we don't know, but we assume that that's probably his opponent's original plan. Get in there, get on top of him, control him, dirty box, because that's what we had seen in other fights past.
Okay.
So we were prepared for that, but then Court's like, I'm going back to doing what I do best. Boom, and his shoulders in, and he nails that guy to the fence. And then he just controlled the rest of the fight, dominant control, right?
Yeah.
And it's I want to say that it was the first time his two sons had actually been in the arena with his wife.
Dude, that's awesome.
Yeah, his wife and his father go to all of his fights.
Okay.
But I want to say it was the first time his sons had actually been.
That's awesome.
So I just remember us doing a loop, and I want to say we went back to find them in outside the cage.
Okay.
High fiving everybody, and the crowd's gone wild, and everybody we know.
Yeah.
In the community, MMA community, in the martial arts community, people just from around town.
Yeah.
Yeah, everybody's high fiving him, just giving him big hugs, and it was awesome. Such an awesome experience.
It was awesome. Tell me why you think it took so long for UFC to come to Utah, and why they haven't come back, and do you think they'll come back?
Well, there's always been they've always talked about coming. There's always been, we're going to do a show. We're going to do a show. Oh, we're going to do a show, but it's going to be on a Sunday.
Yeah, I remember hearing
that one got canceled.
Yeah,
that one got canceled.
I remember that one.
There wasn't a big ticket push. The next one, right? So what you're seeing now is the big pay-per-view events are generally in big stadium style arenas.
Yes.
Like Madison, the Square Garden, the T-Mobile Arena.
Yes.
Big arenas, And then you're seeing the Fox Sports 1 stuff where it's might be a big arena, but could be something smaller, So with the way they've contracted the television shows, the television events, plus the pay-per-view events, they're constantly looking for the next place to hold a show,
True.
And they're trying to, obviously break into different markets. They're trying to test, where they're at, and I mean, they're brilliant. They're smart. They know what they're doing.
Yeah.
There's a reason why they've been so successful. why they turned a $4 billion industry into an $8 billion, you know, like, or value, whatever the case may be. But yeah, like, there was talk, and then they shut that down, and so they've been talking about coming back ever since.
Good,
you know. So
I mean, I hope they do. I mean, it's always a great time. So.
Yeah,
I know Vegas is not too far away from us, but still,
yeah,
it's nice when it's in your backyard and
yeah.
you get to go. No, I remember me and Sean were talking like during the prelims. It wasn't very packed.
Yeah,
and a lot of times it's not usually.
Sure.
But like, man, but it's the first event in Utah. We should have. I wish more people would have packed it out so they could see. Oh man, there's a big crowd here.
Yeah,
big fan base that we should come back to. So I mean, that was just our opinion anyway.
No, right? Yeah, you know, like fans are funny sometimes.
Yeah, fans think they're experts sometimes too. Yeah. So let's talk about the main event we just had. Pay-per-view this past weekend. Habib versus Conor McGregor.
Yeah.
And so I mean, it was a great card from the first fight, Karate Hottie, Felice Herrig,
yes,
to the main event, and
yes,
and I'll tell you kind of what I was impressed with. And then you kind of give me some ideas you had from it, but
sure.
I was impressed with the Beast, the Black Beast,
Derek
Lewis. He was getting his ass kicked all fight.
You know, that's that's something that we talk about all the time. You know, you're never out of the fight.
Right.
Never out of the fight, no matter how bad it gets. No matter how bad it gets, no matter how much you're down, you're never out of the fight. And that was something that I took from Marcus Luttrell.
Okay.
Marcus Luttrell used those words, and I've used those words ever since. I heard that from him. You're never out of the fight.
I like that.
Never out of the fight, man. Oof. What was it? 15 seconds.
Yeah,
the last 15 seconds of the fight.
He just threw an overhand right.
Yeah,
and it landed on the button.
Yep. You never give up. You fight to the very last bell, and you fight till the referee says stop. That's just.
Dude, I was so impressed.
A lot of heart.
I mean, first of all, I mean, you think about that, he's getting his ass kicked all fight, but that told me he's got a big chin.
Yeah.
You know, he can take it.
Yeah.
And then he knew he still had that power. I mean, he was winded. You could tell he was winded. He just knew he still had that right loaded at any time.
Yeah.
That he could throw it, and he landed it.
Oh, man.
So I was really impressed with that fight.
Yeah.
What anything else?
That's what makes that. So that's what makes a lot of this fighting is dangerous. Like, because you can get hit by that one shot, man. You can get clipped pretty quick, and it can change. It can change your night. You know, it can change your. In this case, it can change your life. You know, like that guy, man. He's on. He's on his way. You know, he's doing good things.
Yeah, for sure. Anything else you really liked about the card?
Tony Ferguson.
Yeah.
Tony Ferguson and
Pettis. Were you worried that Tony was coming off too early from the injury?
No.
Okay.
Only because I've seen guys come back from injuries.
Okay.
Court is one of those guys.
Yeah.
I've seen Court come back off of injuries and fight a couple times now. And nobody's taking fights that they don't, especially at that level, that they don't think they're ready for. You know?
Okay.
Tony battled back. Tony came back, and Tony battled back to where he is today.
What do you think about Tony using some of Pettis' Showtime moves?
Yeah, he jumping off the cage.
Jumping off the cage, trying to kick off the cage. I thought it was funny the first time. The second time, I was like, all right.
Yeah.
It's still funny, though.
Yeah. Well, I think there was a point in that fight where everyone was like wondering, who's bleeding? Where is all this blood coming from?
I was thinking that too.
Is Tony cut? Is
Tony got knocked down?
Yes.
Yeah.
So like, there's blood, and nobody's like, well, who's bleeding? You know, it was trying to get
we were doing that too,
doing the angle, like man, and then Anthony popped his head up, and you could see it.
Right.
You know, big cut on his
big
forehead.
gash.
Yeah. And it was not just dripping; it was spraying.
Yeah.
You know, so like that's a tough. Head wounds are tough.
Yeah, Tony's got those razor elbows.
Yeah. He
throws them.
Yeah. I really enjoyed that fight. I really enjoyed Duke Rufus is an amazing coach.
Yeah.
Duke Rufus is an amazing coach. And I'm glad that they were in his corner listening to that, because there is a responsibility to care for your fighter.
Yeah.
There is a responsibility to put them first, their safety first. And too often do we see guys, being pushed back in, and they're not. They can't continue.
Because some people were criticizing Pettis, saying he pussed out. And
yeah, but man,
you can't throw a broken hand though, or you shouldn't throw a broken hand.
Yeah, everybody's like, "Whoa, Uriah Faber broke both his hands," and he still fought. Well, okay, still, but there's so much that goes into it.
Yeah,
there's so much, there's so much that goes into it, and every case is different. And what those guys have, Anthony and Duke, what those guys have as coach and athlete and friend and
father figure almost.
Yeah, those they have, like, there's a point where, like, you have to be comfortable making that decision.
It's true.
And that doesn't matter who you are. I mean, if you're in someone's corner, you have to be comfortable making that decision. And I stand by that decision, because that was his choice. Like Duke's looking out for his fighter, he's looking out for his athlete. And coaches and are oftentimes that check and that balance. They're the ones that are like, okay, you know what? The fighter wants to go, but maybe we need to pull back, or, and vice versa. Like.
Ooh, so let's rewind then to Raquel Pennington. That was a big thing where she wanted to quit, and the coaches were like, "No, like, come on, you can do this." They kind of pushed her back in, and then she got dominated in that round and lost. How do you look at that? Because Raquel wasn't blaming her coaches, but a lot of people were.
Yeah, I remember seeing and hearing that. Raquel Pennington, Amanda Nunes.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
So that fight was very one-sided to begin with.
Right.
Raquel Pennington took a ton of damage.
Yes.
Between the 4th and the 5th round, she came back and she said, "I'm done."
Yeah. Yes.
Well, there's, two ways to look at that. One is she's right, and they need to respect that.
Yeah.
She had already taken so much damage that you have to listen to that.
Yeah.
You have to be. There's that, and then there's the other side where it's like, you got one more round, you still got a chance.
Yeah, this is for the belt.
Still got a chance.
Yeah.
You still got a chance, and you still might be able to get that one punch knockout. Right. You might be able to be like Derek Lewis and knock someone out in the last 15 seconds. So there's that true. Side of it, right? However, I'm
putting you on the spot. I'm sorry.
Yeah. So if Raquel Pennington wouldn't have taken so much damage, I could maybe see the coaches stand.
Yeah,
I could maybe
don't
see
quit.
It.
You have a chance. Yeah,
she had taken so much damage in that fight, and then she said, "I am done. I don't want to go back out there."
Yeah, she looked exhausted.
That's the coach's responsibility.
Okay.
Stop the fight. Stop the fight.
That makes sense. I like that. Good, and I like that you saw both sides too.
I do see both sides. However, the damage that she took speaks way more volume to me.
Yeah. Okay.
Because again, what our job is in the corner is to protect the fighter's safety.
That's true.
We're there for them. It's not about the coaches at that point. That's about the fighter in the cage doing that. That's why not everybody can be a coach. Right. Not everybody can be a corner man. I've seen corner men in shows where I'm like, I wouldn't want that person making the call for me.
Okay.
I wouldn't want that person. They don't know what they're doing.
Right.
So.
That makes sense.
Yeah. In this case, like, you have to make that call. You have to make that professional decision.
That's true.
For the safety of all.
For the safety. Now, the main event, Conor versus Khabib, it kind of went the way I thought it was going to go.
Yeah.
It was just going to be Khabib kind of taking him down and just kind of grinding on him and laying on him and just hitting him and
mauling him.
Yeah, just maul him and just exhaust him out. And that's exactly what happened. Did it go the way you thought it would go?
Yeah, when I looked at that, and I'll give this is some insight to like strategy.
Okay.
Tactic,
good.
Like the strategy tactical part that I was talking about earlier. When we look at fights, we say, okay, advantages, disadvantages, strengths, weaknesses, those are all things. So we look at, who has the striking advantage? Maybe Conor,
yeah.
Right? Who has the wrestling advantage?
Easily Khabib.
Who has the jiu-jitsu?
Probably Khabib. Yeah.
So if you broke it down into 3 categories, striking, wrestling, just meaning grappling from the feet, and then, grappling from the ground. Conor may have the striking advantage.
Right.
Khabib may have the wrestling and the jiu-jitsu advantage.
Yeah.
Who has the conditioning advantage?
Khabib.
You see?
Yeah.
So
I like that. I like how you just broke all that down though.
Yeah.
Okay.
So like when you look at it that way, you'd be like, okay, 3 out of 4 categories, Khabib has got the advantage. But with striking, you can't ever minimize striking. Just like you can't ever minimize jiu-jitsu, because you can submit someone and end a fight. You can knock someone out and end a fight. Those are the X factors, right?
Right.
The finishers. How do we finish fights? Knockouts, submissions.
Okay.
Refs intervention.
Okay.
Right? And those X factors.
Okay.
Are stuff that we have to look at. Khabib has, I don't know, what is it, 20-something? 7? 6? 27?
Now 27.
27 fights. 27 fights.
Undefeated. Never lost a round. They say he might have lost 1 round this weekend, but never lost a round before, though.
Gosh, man. I mean, that's...
pretty dominant.
Super dominant. Super, super dominant. So that's the way I looked at it going in.
Dude, I like that. I think...
Not being, biased to, the fan perspective of, Conor and his persona, his image, or Khabib and his cultural, his persona and his just being honest with the statistics and the facts.
Yeah, that's good. I don't think I'm going to look at fights the same now, man. I'm really going to analyze it this way.
Well,
now.
It's
good.
It's an easy way to do it.
I like that.
It's you can look at. Some people look at reach and height and sometimes that doesn't always tell a tale.
Yeah.
So.
And obviously it ended differently where Khabib didn't get strapped. He didn't get his name called and his hand raised. Little melee broke out.
so I whatever happened after the fight is under the jurisdiction of the Nevada State Athletic Commission.
Yeah.
They will hand out their penalties and they were fined.
Because it was a sanctioned fight.
Yes. They will handle that. Well.
Yeah.
There will be some fines. There'll be some, most likely be some suspensions. They will handle that. The UFC's job on that night is simply to get people there, put on the show, and present their champions with their belts. Because the belts aren't regulated by the Athletic Commission.
Right.
The belts are regulated by the UFC. So the UFC, I think, should have given him his belt. Oh, but the crowd and the Russian fans, the Irish fans, we'll start a riot. Well, oh man.
I mean, it was very unlike Khabib to do what he did, but obviously he did get in his head. It got personal, and one of Conor's cornermen were beckoning him on.
Yeah.
And I didn't think he would do that, but for me, I didn't really think it was. Because for me, I didn't think it was a big deal. I was like, all right, he's caught in the moment, It just kind of happens, and And like you said, I know people are comparing it to Conor. I'm like, well, that was a New York City had to handle that. This is going to be the Nevada Athletic Commission is going to handle this. Just two different entities handling it, you know.
Well, when they started advertising and publicizing and marketing the New York event and what happened as part of the promotion for this, I wasn't a fan of that to begin with.
Yeah, you told me that you didn't like that.
I didn't like that. That was something that like I didn't think that was the right thing. Like we're getting so far past
the discipline or
as a martial artist, I don't care for that side of things. It doesn't interest me. I don't like it, and that's just not my thing.
I get you.
But but when two guys face each other and they're like respectful and they show the coaches respect and they show the fighters respect, they show the fans respect, and they act as professionals, and I love that. That's one of my favorite things. Me too. Is if you look at like there's some videos circulating of Khabib in his prior fights. Well, he's the first guy to give his opponent a hug.
Right.
He's the first person to show other coaches respect.
Yeah.
He's the first person to like shake people's hands, and that comes from his martial arts background, from his father's discipline as a child, and as a teenager, and just the way they conduct themselves.
Right.
So, what had to get under his skin to make him want to do that?
It got really personal.
It got really personal, and that's what he said. You don't talk about family. You don't talk about religion. You don't talk about country.
Yeah.
You know, like, did you see the video where he's punching him in the face and he's saying, "Let's talk." Oh, you're gonna talk now.
Oh no, I didn't see that.
So there's a video circulating right now where Khabib's on top, we're on the ground in a ground and pound, and he's talking to Conor, and the bell rings. They stand up, and Conor says to Khabib,
"It's just business."
It's just business.
I heard that one. Yeah,
it's
that
just
one I heard.
business. So it's in that video where Khabib's talking to him. And punching him.
I didn't see that part. That's interesting.
Yeah, let's talk now. Crack.
Yeah.
Crack. Oh, you want to talk? Crack.
Yeah, that was for the 10-8 round.
Yeah. So, like, I'm not a fan of that whole drama stuff.
Yeah, I mean, I thought that was kind of funny, the melee at the end, and I kind of was like, all right, cool, that's fun. That was fun.
Yeah, a lot of people are freaking out about it. A lot of people are upset about it. A lot of people are disappointed in it, and a lot of people just are like, whatever. You know, it's sports, it's fan.
Just get wrapped up in the moment.
Yes. It's sports now. It's
I played a sport, and I took a little bit too far afterwards. I got upset, and I was like, sorry, just the moment.
Yeah.
Just happens, lack of judgment. But
yeah, totally.
Got a question for you. Would you ever wrestle a bear?
What makes you think I haven't?
Oh, big grizzly. That was a good footage with Khabib as a little kid. That was good.
Yeah. No, I'm teasing. No, but
I wouldn't.
Yeah, that would definitely. That took some guts, huh?
Yeah.
For the parents to put the kid in there with the
hey, take on this bear. Yeah. That was funny. Well, Rob, man, thanks for coming, man. I really appreciate it. Brother.
Anytime. It's a pleasure.
You guys got to check out AbsoluteMMA.com.
Yes.
On Instagram, Facebook.
Yes.
Absolute MMA.
West Jordan, Utah.
West Jordan, Utah is the best gym, you guys. You guys got to check it out. So thanks for coming down, brother. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Talk to you guys next time.